Hello, this is Pastor Bella. Good evening, God girls. I am so excited to continue the Esther series with us all. We're going into chapter 2, and I just personally love this woman. I just love her. She's one of the people that I can't wait to meet in heaven. She's just so inspiring. All right, so Esther chapter 2, the very first verse actually makes me laugh a little. Verse 1. After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus subsided, he remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what had been decreed against her. Let me stop there for a minute. The reason why I find it hilarious is he's missing his wife. He is missing his wife, God girls. He's missing his wife. That's how marriage is. Some of you are married to husbands who say things in the heat of the moment and it crushes you and you think he doesn't love you or whatever. Well, he said it in the heat of the moment. When the anger clears away, he's going to be missing you. Well, it's not a healthy way to do things anyways. And even you, when you're upset with your husband, please don't address him. Don't address him. I gave you all an example when someone made me so upset recently. And I had to start praying immediately because I was getting ready to react. And I was so upset with her. You know, when people keep promising that they can do something, and your business is safe with them and they can do it. And then they keep giving you the runaround. And it took almost 3 months to get my product back. And she didn't do it the way I wanted it done. So I was just like, I've had enough of this. I was just so upset. And I had to go to Father God, and Father God calmed me down. It's the same thing in marriage, because your husband will make you so upset sometimes. Your children will make you so upset sometimes. Please do not react. Calm down. Calm down. Sometimes when I'm really upset with my children, I tell them, okay, you all need to leave right now. You need to leave. I will talk to you later, because I don't want to damage their self-esteem. When you're angry, you really can't control your actions or the words that you say. And words don't die. They actually, that's why we have what is called verbal abuse. You know, it's not only physical abuse where, God forbid, in a marriage, although this is very common now, of domestic violence, the husband is beating on his wife, or there's some wives who beat on their husbands. That's physical abuse. But verbal abuse is when you keep tearing your loved one down. You're stupid, you're foolish, I can't believe you did this, you're an idiot, you do this, all this. You know, those negative words, those are normally said in the heat of the moment. So please, yes, we all will get angry, but try not to react when you're angry. Calm down, take a walk. For me, I just start arranging stuff. I'll start cleaning stuff. I'll start singing. I'll start talking to God. I need to calm down. Yes. As a wife. Yeah. So anyways, King Ahasuerus, his anger is over right now, but now he's missing his wife. But guess what? He's gotten rid of his wife. Again, be careful the people you keep around you. Although this was all in God's plan, because Vashti needed to leave for Esther to come to the throne. But in your everyday life, anger can really rob you of life's blessings. So try and control yourself. And that's why the fruit of the Spirit, one of them is self-control. You really need the help of God to have self-control. So I just wanted to stay there a minute, that you see that, you know, even though he had acted, he was angry with her. And I mean, in chapter 1, it says, verse 12, but Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command brought by his eunuchs. Therefore the king was furious, and his anger burned within him. He was angry. He was in a rage. But now he's not angry anymore. He's missing his wife. He's missing his wife. So God girls who are married, don't take it personal. Just know when things are getting too high. You got to be the calm one. I'm telling you, it's tough, but you got to be the calm one if you're married to someone that just expresses himself in anger. I'm just someone who likes to be quiet. I would rather be quiet and process things before I speak, but not everyone is like me. So anyways, I just had to stop there for a minute. Let's go to verse 2. Then the king's servants who attended him said, let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king. Woo! King. Of course, a king has to have a woman that's never been touched before sexually. Again, how does that make you feel as a God girl? You belong to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Sexual purity is so important to even a mortal king. He doesn't want a woman that some other man has touched. So, God girl, do you have a sense of self-worth? Do you have a sense of value? You need to understand it's not too late for you, okay? It's not too late if you've dabbled in sexual sin or done all kinds of I've gone into the various kinds of sex people are doing these days, and they saying they still virgins. Yeah, they're doing some crazy, whacked up, messed up stuff, but there's different kinds of sex. Let me not deviate. But the king wants virgins. He doesn't want a woman who's been sexually with a man before. That's his privilege as a king. All right, so knowing that you're a daughter of the King of Kings, please, single God girls, please know that you are royalty. Royalty. And think about it. If Esther wasn't a virgin, she would have missed this position. Yeah, because it called for the virgins in the land. So she was qualified to be amongst them. All right, so you got to make sure that you are in good standing physically and spiritually before God. When you open your mouth and say you're a God girl, you can't be hopping from boyfriend to boyfriend and doing all kinds of things with men. And you say, yeah, I'm a God girl. No. That's not how to be a God girl. You got to work on your relationship with God and be fulfilling your purpose as a single God girl and trust in God to bring you your God-ordained husband who will respect your stance on sexual purity. If he's trying to drag you off to bed, God is not in him. All right? Verse 3, and let the king appoint officers to all the provinces of his kingdom, and they may gather all the beautiful young virgins to Shushan, the citadel, into the women's quarters under the custody of Haggai, the king's eunuch, custodian of the women, and let beauty preparations be given them. Oh, they want to present the best of the best to King Ahasuerus, because he deserves it, right? Then let the young woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This thing pleased the king, and he did so. So, of course, they're trying to move along with the plan because, of course, they can tell that, okay, we've taken away the queen. What's the king going to do? He needs a queen. So they have presented a solution to a problem. And try and be that person, not the person that sees a problem and complains about a problem. Okay, there's a problem. What solution can you bring to the table? So the king is appeased right now because they advised him to get rid of his queen, but imagine if they had no solution moving forward, right? So anyways, he's appeased now, and he'll be patient to wait for his queen. Verse 5, in Shushan, the citadel, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. Kish had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captives who had been captured with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. Remember when we were studying the book of Daniel? King Nabal, that's King Nabal right there. Verse 7, and Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther. Hadassah means myrtle. It's a tree. It's a very beautiful tree. And it signifies love, fertility, life. It signifies positivity. And that's one thing I love about the Jews. They don't just give meaningless names. They give names that mean something. And so Esther ends up being really a nice lady, right? She's full of love. Her future is fertile because she goes into a blessed place, ending up being the queen of a foreign nation. I mean, it's just so cool to see her transition. God, girls, anything is possible with God. Don't look at where you are right now. You may become the next. Okay, you want to be the president? I was going to say first lady. You may be the next first lady of, I love saying the United States of America because I was talking about Michelle Obama in chapter 1, but you can pick your nation. You can end up there as the president. Hey, wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, anything's possible if you belong to God. All right, so that's what Hadassah means. That is Esther. Esther is the Persian name, which means star. Again, very significant. A star shines, a star is beautiful, a star stands out. A star is not a regular thing. So she had two significant names. Her Jewish name was significant. Hadassah is the Jewish name, and Esther is the Persian name. For she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So Mordecai was a relative to her. He was basically her cousin, elderly cousin / uncle, and he raised her. So it was when the king's command and decree were heard, and when many young women were gathered at Shushan the citadel under the custody of Haggai, that Esther also was taken to the king's palace into the care of Haggai, the custodian of the women. Let me stop there for a minute. Esther was a Jewish girl. She grew up with the commandments of the Lord. Sexual purity was an important thing to her. Jewish girls don't end up in marriage as non-virgins back in the day, like really, really holy Jewish girls, right? They don't do that stuff. But now there's a law that has come into the land, and you are required to, as a beautiful young virgin, to go before the king and sleep with him and have sex with him, and because he is looking for a new queen. It doesn't mean you're going to end up being his queen, but he's looking for a new queen. So you're going to give up your prize position. You're going to give up your virtue. You know, you've never had sex before. You're keeping it for your husband. And if you don't have a husband, you're keeping it till you die. And now you have to give it up because the king needs a new queen. This was a tragic moment in the time of Esther. I don't want to glamorize this story. Yeah, she became queen, but what did she have to lose? She was an orphan, and this was against her belief system. She had no choice in the matter. But the wonderful thing was God's hand was upon her life. You know, just as when tragic things happen to us as Christians, God is aware, and God will see us through. All right, so she had to go. I don't know if Ahasuerus was a fine man. I don't know their age difference. You know, these days we want to fall in love before we get married. She didn't have that luxury of falling in love with the king. I mean, it was a scary moment for her. I know there's some cultures that do arranged marriages, but it's a scary, scary thing to get married to someone you don't have feelings for yet. Of course, they eventually will grow into feelings for each other, right? But it's scary. It's just totally new, totally foreign, totally strange. So I'm sure Esther walked into this with trepidation, with fear, with anxiety. But she was a woman of God. She held onto her faith in God. And Lord, this is what I'm facing right now, and I'm going to go through it, and I'm trusting that you are with me. All right, so this is a lesson from you all who are facing one obstacle or the other. God is aware. God is with you. Okay, there are some things that happen to you beyond your control. For instance, let me use an example of you. If you have been raped, you did not invite a man to rape you, but you were raped. So don't blame yourself and don't think your life is over, because you have a great tomorrow. You have a great future. In that moment, you lost your virtue because someone took it from you, and it was a very traumatic experience for you. But let Esther encourage you. I'm not saying that the king raped her, but it's sort of like that when you're having sex with someone you don't know and you don't have any feelings for, unless God put it in her that last moment. I don't know. I wasn't there when they were having sex, but I'm just saying a woman has to be emotionally involved and emotionally together with a man before being excited about that part of marriage. Okay, so anyways, Esther went through a lot. Let's not glamorize her. Let's look at her again. Esther the woman, Esther the queen. She was a woman first before she became a queen, and she went through a lot. God, girls, you and I will go through a lot in this life. Let's learn from this woman. Okay, how to handle life. You must be graceful. Verse number 9. Now the young woman pleased him, and she obtained his favor. So he readily gave beauty preparations to her, besides her allowance. Then 7 choice maidservants were provided for her from the king's palace, and he moved her and her maidservants to the best place in the house of the women. Now, for you to please somebody, you got to be nice. Remember, I said that in chapter 1. Esther was nice. She was a nice, godly lady. And so she's pleasing the head eunuch he's going further for her than he did for the other contestants. He gave her 7 choice maidservants. That's 7 of the best, not just 7. 7 choice. Again, we see the number 7, God's number, right? And he moved her and her maidservants to the best place in the house of the woman. So the eunuch had already chosen his favorite. He had chosen his queen. Before she got to the throne, before she got to her position, the eunuch had chosen her as queen. What can we learn from this, God girls? There's a great future for you. But how are you handling yourself right now? People are watching you. You don't know who is who. You don't know who's connected to who. So you better be nice. You better be humble. You better be right. You better be working out your salvation in fear and trembling. You better be good. You better be a God girl through and through. Because right here, right now, this is a classic example where a reputation is already being built. The eunuch had chosen his queen, and he was in charge of all the women in the king's household. He was the chief eunuch. So he knew, he had seen all kinds of women. But this woman right here, this Esther right here, this one got his attention. He went above and beyond for her. God girls, don't you want that kind of favor? When you walk into a place, you walk into a room and people are bending over backwards to make you comfortable. Oh my goodness. That is the favor of God. When God singles you out in your generation, and where other people are struggling, it's easier for you. Yes, this is very inspiring. So please be careful how you act. You don't know who's connected to who. You don't know. You don't know if President Obama's best friend is in the room right there, in the place that you're in, and then you're acting out. And then it gets to a point that you've arrived and they recommend you for a position in the United States presidency cabinet. And they're like, oh, that lady, she was acting out when I saw her. No, we don't want her. All right, so people are always watching you. Be careful. Can you imagine if Esther wasn't nice? She wouldn't have been favored. The eunuch wouldn't have chosen her as his favorite. No, he wouldn't have given her 7 maidservants. I mean, wow, look at that favor. Verse 10, Esther had not revealed her people or family, for Mordecai had charged her not to reveal it. Remember, when I was teaching you about Esther in year 2017, I said she was an undercover agent for God. There is a time to be hidden and a time to be revealed. It was not time for Esther to let anyone know she was a Jew. It was not time. It was not time. And I used the life of Joseph as an example. Joseph should have kept his mouth shut, right? So that they didn't know his great future. But he was naive. He was a young boy of 17. He didn't know his brothers hated him and planned to kill him. But again, in that, God was with Joseph. God's hand was upon Joseph, even if his life took a detour for 13 years. God is with you, God girl. I don't know your tragic story, but God knows your tragic story. And just as he saw Joseph through, he saw Esther through, he's going to see you through. In Jesus' name, amen. And every day, Mordecai paced in front of the court of the women's quarters to learn of Esther's welfare and what was happening to her. That is love. That is the love of family. I don't know if the other young virgins that were dropped off there, their family members were checking on them daily, but Mordecai was sure to check on his Esther daily. That's love. That is love. So God, girls, be full of love always. Verse 12, each young woman came to go into King Ahasuerus after she had completed 12 months preparation according to the regulations for the women. For thus were the days of their preparation apportioned, 6 months with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfumes and preparations for beautifying women. I mean, come on now. Come on. Woo! This king was living a lavish lifestyle. I mean, look at that. In order for a woman to meet with this king, she had to have spent 1 full year of beauty preparations. But I know, since Esther was a God girl, she wasn't just there in the flesh. She was in the spirit, praying to God and nurturing her relationship with God. 1 year before she went to go see the king, she was working on her relationship with God. I know it because she was in a strange territory. And as a God girl, you got to keep yourself close to God. Some of you are going to go outside of your countries for education or for work. It's going to be strange for a while. Hold on to God. Don't do what the citizens of that nation are doing. Don't get lost in the crowd. Hold on to God. Esther held on to God for that 1 year. She was being beautified and prepared to meet with the king. I mean, look at that. Look at the preparation for just one night with the king. They had to spend 1 year of beauty treatments. How much more we as God girls? How do you prepare as a daughter of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords to reign in eternity with Christ? How are you preparing? This was a mortal earthly king. 1 year. And he's just going to sleep with the lady once. And if he likes her, okay, that's his queen. If not, she goes back to, I don't know, probably get lost in his harem or something. I mean, 1 full year of preparation. How are you preparing for the return of Christ? How are you preparing for your death? If you die right now, you sure of where you're going? Yes. Yes, I have to take you back there because some of us are just living carelessly like tomorrow is guaranteed. Let me tell you that tomorrow is not guaranteed. The next 1 minute is not even guaranteed. All right? We are alive by his grace. We are here today by his grace because we have a purpose to fulfill. There is a show that I was watching recently. I'm a history person. I love the British history and stuff. So it's the Victoria, is a TV show about Queen Victoria. And so there's a scene there and her son is saying, Mama, I don't want to be king. I don't want to be king. And and she says, she's asking him, do you know what destiny is? And he says, no. And she says, you are destined to be king. I know you don't want to be king, but you are destined to be king. And then he says, why not my sister? She's better at everything than I am. And then the queen says, well, she mentions her older sister who's better at everything than she is, but she sits on the throne. She is the queen. So she's telling her son, you were destined for it. So you have to prepare for it, whether you like it or not. And it brought tears to my eyes because your destiny, sometimes it catches you unawares. You know, you've planned your life, you're going in one direction and then boom, God comes in and just takes you in a whole different direction. That's my personal life. Where I am right now, it was not my plan. It was not my plan at all. I am totally in God's plan. All right? So this is the destiny for Pastor Bella. I have to fulfill my destiny. I'm sure many of us, if God, comes to us and says, will you want to serve me? Many of us will say, no. I've run into many people say they don't want to be pastors or they don't want to marry pastors. And I just laugh because you have no choice in the matter. You can meet a regular man right now who's a medical doctor or a lawyer or a teacher, but 10 years down the line, he can end up as a pastor. He'll say, you know what? I'm hanging up my profession. I feel strongly I need to go to Bible school. I feel strongly that I need to be a missionary to some nation. And then what are you going to do about it? Oh, you got to be prepared, God girl, because you don't know your future, but God does. All right? You got to prepare for your destiny, and you will be prepared as long as you are close to God. Esther was going through a very strange time. Very, very strange time. Very alarming time. Very traumatic time. I'm sure as the days got closer to when she was going to lose her virginity, and she wasn't happy about it, but as I've told you all before, make the best out of your life. Some of you, terrible things have happened to you. Make the best out of your life. Okay, if you're a widow, make a best out of your life. If you're a single parent, the man abandoned you or he married you and he walked away, make the best out of your life. Don't you stay miserable because some man walked away from you or some man died on you. Don't be miserable now. Make the best out of your life. And you can do that by the grace and power of God, because there is joy in God. There is peace in God. You may not have everything that you want, but you have God, and he will give you his joy and his peace that passes all understanding. Verse 13. Thus prepared, each young woman went to the king, and she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the women's quarters to the king's palace. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, to the custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch, who kept the concubines. She would not go in to the king again unless the king delighted in her and called for her by name. Look at that. That 1 year to prepare to be with the king, you're applying to be his queen, and he may never have need of you again. Very tragic for these contestants, and would have really been tragic for Esther, but God had a plan for Esther. Remember, God moved Vashti out of the way because he had his Esther. He had his plan, and no one was going to get into the plan of God. Nobody can destroy or stop the plan of God, and that's why you must stay close to God. Because it doesn't matter what your life looks like right now. It doesn't matter all the delays and whatever you've run into. As long as you're close to God, God has a great plan for your life, and it shall come to pass. Verse 15. Now when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter to go in to the king, she requested nothing but what Haggai, the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, advised, and Esther obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. Do you see a woman of wisdom? Do you see a woman of wisdom right here? She did not say, oh, I want this, I want that, I'll take that to go see the king. You can see she kept her humility. Even though she had her 7 maidservants, she was in a different place of the palace. She was already treated like royalty. She still inquired of Haggai, what should I take? After all, you know the man. I don't know him. What do you suggest? Let me lean on your experience. I love that about Esther. There are people in your life that you must lean on their wisdom. You must. There's several times I still talk to my father. Yes, I'm grown. I'm fully grown. But I still talk to my father. I still lean on his advice. I still respect him. There are mentors in my life that I listen to them. I allow them to disciple me because I have godly mentors. That's why they disciple me now. It's not just every mentor that can disciple you. Let me just quickly put that there. Always be in a position to learn and humble yourself like Esther is doing right now. She's asking him, based on your experience, sir, what should I take in to go meet with the king? How will she not find favor in his eyes and in all who saw her? Verse 16. So Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Here we see number 7 again. I mean, come on now. Come on, God girls. The 7th year of his reign. The 7th year of his reign. God gives him a new queen. Again, completion, perfection. Now God is ushering in a new era in the 7th year. So pay attention to number 7 in your life. Pay attention to it. It is God's number. It is God's number. All right. Verse 17. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the other virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Look at that. Look at that. The King Ahasuerus, he loves our Esther. He loves her more than all the other women. She has his grace and favor. All right? More than all the other virgins. So as of that night, the king doesn't need any more virgins. He's found his queen. He's found his queen. He places the crown on her head, and she's now the queen. Verse 18, and the king made a great feast, the feast of Esther, for all his officials and servants, and he proclaimed a holiday in the provinces, and gave gifts according to the generosity of a king. This king was so generous. Any reason to party, right? But this is the reason right here. You got yourself a new queen. And this queen right here, she's a God girl. So you got yourself a good queen, King Ahasuerus. He's feasting his happy, the feast of Esther. Yeah, I like that. Verse 19, when virgins were gathered together a second time, Mordecai sat within the king's gate. Now Esther had not revealed her family and her people, just as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther obeyed the command of Mordecai as when she was brought up by him. She's queen now, but she's still listening to Mordecai. It's not time to let him know who you are. It's not time. It's not time. The Jews had been taken in as captives in this land. All right? Remember the time of Daniel and Babylon. That's why Nebuchadnezzar was mentioned, all right? So here again, the Jews are captive. Some of them had trickled over into this part of town, or this nation, Persia. So they were not, this was a foreign nation to them. This was a volatile ground for them. So Mordecai had to caution her that you don't need to open up your mouth and say you're a Jew, because we're captives in this land, and it's just not wise to say so. So she listened. She listened. As an Esther in your generation, you got to be humble. You got to be graceful. You got to listen. You got to have wisdom. Wisdom is cautious. It doesn't just rush and do things. Wisdom is not impulsive. When something is presented to you, say, thank you for your suggestion. Let me go pray about it. Don't just hop on it and say, yeah, that's it. It must be the will of God. No, you need to go spend time with God and figure out if that's God's will for you. So what are we learning from her? And let me tell you, that's what makes a woman beautiful. I don't know how you feel about yourself. Some of you may feel like you're not beautiful. But let me tell you what makes you really beautiful. Your character. It's not about how beautiful you are on the outside. It is your character. Haven't you seen some men? They would date outwardly really beautiful women, but when they now get their wives, you see the woman is not as outstandingly beautiful as girls they dated before. Why? Because in Nigeria we call it wife material. A wife is different from a girlfriend. There are attributes of a wife that you cannot find in some girlfriends. So men would rather just go with the wife, even if she's not outwardly physically beautiful. But this is a woman that they can settle down with. It is the character of the woman that got them, more than the outward beauty. So that's what really makes you beautiful. You must spend time with God. When you spend time with God, He helps you. Like I told you, when I was angry, and back in the day, I would have lashed out because I had every right to lash out at that person. But now with my spiritual maturity, I've learned to take my emotions directly to God. When I'm sad, I go to God. When I'm happy, I go to God. When I'm angry, I go to God. When I'm hurt, I go to God first before I address whoever or whatever hurt me physically. All right, so have that kind of relationship, because His glory will just take over you and you'll just become a new person. Verse 21, in those days, while Mordecai sat within the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, doorkeepers, became furious and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. So the matter became known to Mordecai, who told Queen Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. And when an inquiry was made into the matter, it was confirmed, and both were hanged on a gallows, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. So Mordecai was looking out for Esther, the kingdom, because his Esther is basically like his daughter. So his daughter is now in the palace. So any threat against the king is a threat against Esther. So Mordecai reports it to Esther. She lets her husband know when it is handled, and it's a good deed, right? And as we go on in the book, you'll see what this good deed ends up doing for Mordecai. So God, girls, this is the end of chapter 3, and you know I'm going to stop here. I prefer to take it chapter by chapter as the Spirit leads. But isn't this woman so inspiring? Doesn't she excite you? Again, I say that she's one of the people I can't wait to meet in heaven. She's my favorite woman in the Bible. Hands down, she's my favorite. All right, she's my favorite woman in the Bible. in the whole Bible. Okay. But if you have to force me to choose a favorite New Testament woman, that would be the woman with the issue of blood. Her faith, woo, her faith broke boundaries. My favorite New Testament man, as I've told you before, is Apostle Paul. My favorite Old Testament man is King David, and Joseph is also part of it. I love Joseph. Joseph, David, David, Joseph, Joseph, David. And it's so funny because my brothers, oh my goodness, my biological brothers are actually named. The firstborn is David, and the second is Joseph. I'm just putting it together now. Oh my God. My two favorite Old Testament men in the Bible, they're actually my brothers too. Wow, that is so cool. So King David and Joseph, they're my favorite Old Testament men. Wow, 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 wow. My last brother is called Samuel. I love Prophet Samuel too, but not like King David. King David and Joseph, okay. So anyway, I'm sorry. Can you imagine? I just put two and two together. Okay, I need to stop it. But anyways, Queen Esther is hands down my favorite woman in the whole Bible. She is just phenomenal how God turned her life around, and it really gives you hope because some of us are really going through so many hardships right now, and it's really tough. I mean, I've spoken to some of you that say you're having suicidal thoughts, and this is my encouragement to you that it's gonna get better. Kick the devil out of your mind because God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind. Your mind needs to be sound. When you start thinking suicide, your mind is not sound, and you need to get on the ground and say, Father, deliver me, because I'm hearing the voice of the enemy more than I'm hearing your voice. I don't want to hear his voice. He's a liar. He's a deceiver. The devil is trying to rob you of your great future. I know it's hard. I know life is hard. I know there are days you may be going, you don't have anything to eat, you don't have any money, you don't have where to go, but just push through. Hold on to God, because I'm telling you, just as he turned this little orphan girl's life around, he will turn your life around. Just hold on to God. When all your friends are compromising and sleeping around with men, and some girls just give up their virginity because they want to have rich boyfriends, they don't want to be hungry anymore. Don't go that route. Don't go that route. Hold on to God. Cry out to God for deliverance. It's going to get hard. There are going to be moments that you may not even have anything to eat at all, but hold on to God. I'm telling you, your future is great. God will turn it around. Stand up for God each and every day of your life. Keep standing, keep standing, keep standing. No matter what your family says, no matter what your people say, no matter what your friends are saying, you stand up for God. God will not be mocked. He will show himself great in your life. Remember, you're an Esther. You are royalty. You are a child of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Be a woman of grace, a woman of beauty, a woman of wisdom, a woman of humility. Oh, and may the abundant favor of God be upon your life, because I'm telling you, it's better to have God's favor than wealth. A lot of us are praying for wealth. No. Me, I pray for God's favor. I'm telling you, because the favor of God can open doors that wealth can open. I prefer to have his favor. You just walk into a room and people just love you or want to have you around. Oh, I love it. People just bending over backwards. They're getting you things. I love the favor of God. Look at that. Esther, the favor of God made what would have been a really, really traumatic experience for Esther quite enjoyable. I mean, she had 7 maids, choice maid servants. Come on now. Oh, she had it good in there. All right. So, God, girls, hold on to God and you will have it good. Your tomorrow is in his hands. God loves you and I love you. This is Pastor Bella. God bless you. Much love.